Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic podcast, emergency podcast, you might even call it. Wow, that's all you can say. Listen, before we get right into the bones of it all, if you're living in Mars for the last 12 hours, Celtic have parted company with Brendan Rodgers at the tennis resignation late on Monday night, and that was that, or so we thought, because 14 minutes after the kind of usual standard parting of the ways press release came a statement from Dermot Desmond, a rare public address from the majority shareholder, which went off like a nuclear bomb. Ryan McDonald, how are you? Let's get stuck into all this stuff. What did you make of last night's incredible turn of events?
Well, as you know, Mick, I was on the late shift in digital last night, and I was just getting my ducks in a row for finishing the shift. Nice quiet into the shift. And then I looked at my phone and it was started dinging, and I looked at Celtic's Twitter and it said club statement, and then all hell broke loose. Let's put it that way. It's an astonishing turn of events, let's be honest. I don't think anyone could have predicted this outcome. Brendan Rodgers, how many times has he said it? 100% he'd be seen out his 3-year contract at Celtic, but it looks like he's jumped before he's been shoved out of the door, to be honest. That's the way I'm reading into it. Dermot Desmond's statement, I've never seen anything like that from a club supremo, if you like, in all my days of kind of covering football. It was absolutely astonishing. 554 word statement. I've never seen anything like it, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Brendan Rodgers has to say in response, because obviously Celtic were wanting to get their side of the story in first.
Yeah, I think we got to the point that I think if the original statement saying that the parting of the ways, I don't think many people would have been that upset. I think it was being, you said it was surprising. It was surprising, but I think there was an inevitability about this parting, given the events of the summer, the increasing displeasure it's been spoken about by the transfer window with the manager, completely at odds with the club's ownership and board. Then you get the kind of behind the scenes briefings. Once that was done, the writing was on the wall. I think no one would have been really surprised if he quit that week. I remember asking him that press conference, were you thinking about quitting? And he said no. I think I'm not saying he boxed himself a corner, but this saying he's going to do his 3 years. He was kind of handcuffed to it a wee bit until it got to a point that it really did become almost kind of untenable, that you can't operate with a system and a complete breakdown between the board or majority owner, the manager, the recruitment department, and then it feeds into the players. I think the whole thing had broken down, didn't it? So I think it got to a point it was inevitable. What wasn't inevitable was like you say, was Dermot Desmond's statement, which was, there's throwing somebody under a bus. There's throwing somebody under a bus that's got a nuclear bomb on it, and then reversing back and forward across the guy. Absolutely nuked Brendan Rodgers. To be honest with you, I thought it was distasteful. I thought it was slightly unprofessional. I thought there was no need for it. You might have those grievances in private. Digging out the dirty laundry like that in public. You're watching late last night on things like Sky Sports, and the presenters have got disbelief, because that's not the kind of thing any club would do. Trying to kind of completely scorch earth a guy's reputation, whether you've got a fan of the guy or you're following up the guy or not, I thought it was really poor. This is the second most decorated manager in the club's history. A guy who's won 11 trophies out of 13. Yes, he's demanding. Yes, he's high maintenance. I've no doubt about it. I think he's awkward. I think he demands a lot. He can be quite stubborn at times. Having got to know him well over the last 10 years, he is very single-minded. But you can't do that. You can't nuke the guy in public like that. I think it's unfair for starters. And what they've done, I think what David has done is actually probably backfired, because, as I say, I think a lot of fans have got to the point where thinking a bit of familiarity, a bit of contempt. It's gone a wee bit stale, and I think a lot of people would have said, you know what, if he resign, I think if he even just resigned and left, I think people would have said, you know what, it's been a successful 2 years, it's not working, wish you all the best, no hard feelings. I think his reputation would be rehabilitated from the last time. It would have been fine. By doing this, they've turned Rodgers into a martyr. Yeah. I think fans will go, wait a minute, that is grossly unfair to a guy who has given his lot for Celtic. As I say, I can't imagine he'd be the easiest manager to work with, because yes, he does set high demands, but he's raised the levels at Celtic. Go back 10 years, he's made winning a formality, made it look easy when it's certainly not easy. And what's his crime from the summer? Demanding better players, not trusting the recruitment department, which hasn't really worked for the last 3 or 4 windows. I think. Listen, the truth of the matter will lie somewhere in between the Rodgers stance, which eventually will come out, and the Dermot Desmond stance. It'll be somewhere in between, and both will be entrenched views of how they view the situation. It'll be somewhere in between. The truth probably lies, and it'll be perception, because Rodgers will say, "I didn't get what I needed." Dermot will say, "Well, I want a striker. We got you Shin Yamada. You didn't want to do this, did that." He will say that that's the case, and they'll say, "Listen, they've won all these titles, and we're doing the models worked. We've made this amount of money." I think the way it was the finality of that statement is just so blunt and unnecessary. I mean, saying that the club is bigger than one man is a wee bit of an irony, given the one man who's absolutely running the show. It's like the 34% majority shareholder. There's a wee bit of an irony there, but it's clearly a clash of egos. I think that the upshot is that it had to happen, but the way it's happened has been spectacular, unnecessary, unedifying, what you want to call it. It's all ended up in a bit of a mess. But in terms of Rodgers, I mean, where do you see the kind of the blame game line here, Ryan? What do you think? Who do you think is at fault here, or is that too black and white?
Yeah, I think it probably is a bit too black and white. If this is a Celtic kind of PR attempt to almost get fans back on side by kind of unleashing Rodgers, I just don't think it's going to work. I just don't think it's going to wash at all with the fan base. If anything, I think it's just going to worsen matters. You know, yeah. I really do. And I can see protests ramping up even further. You talk about Brendan Rodgers. For me, if there was a period where he was going to walk, it would have been after the transfer window. There was a kind of 3 or 4 day period after that where he must have been absolutely reeling with how the transfer window closed. And I thought if he was going to walk, that was the time he would have done it, and he would have left with everyone's best wishes, and the Celtic fans would have fully backed him. So to leave at this stage in the season, you know, I was at the Tynecastle on Sunday. There was absolutely no inclination from Rodgers at all that he was going to walk away. You know, he was saying there's still 29 games to go. It's a long season. He's never been more motivated. He's still extremely confident to be able to turn things around. You know, he seemed like a man that was determined to turn things around and claw back that gap in Hearts. You know, he didn't seem defeated in any way. But yeah, the timing of this departure, I wonder just how quickly it's been arranged. You know, when did this all happen? Was it, you know, it seems to have happened at kind of neck-breaking speed. You know, when were these conversations had? What time of the day yesterday were they had? Because obviously, it's crazy from what we've heard. You know, Brendan Rodgers has been texting people yesterday, and there was no signs that he was off ski. So the whole thing is just it's mind blowing, to be honest. And Dermot Desmond's statement, like you say, I think it really is astonishing. You know, some of the things he's come out with. You know, that Brendan Rodgers has broken the trust of the board. That the Celtic board had committed to a new contract. That Rodgers did sign off every single transfer. That Rodgers had fueled his. This is the most explosive part for me. That Rodgers had fueled hostility towards under fire kind of board members. That's quite something to put at his door. And he also said that this season's failures were down to an individual's desire for self-preservation. I mean, wow! It's incredible, isn't it?
I mean, it really is. I mean, I would imagine Brendan Rodgers might be having some chats with some legal representatives in the next 24 hours. I think. I mean, people talk about Rodgers wanting engineering his exit. I don't understand. No. I don't understand that, because it didn't have to. Well, for a start, he doesn't have to engineer anything. He's out of contract in the summer. If he won the league and said, "I'm tired, I want to leave," nobody would have batted an eyelid. In fact,
I really don't buy into that at all.
I mean, if he wanted to do it early, the chance that he could have easily went over the summer and said, "I've not been backed," and walked out the door. I don't think he wanted this to be his legacy. He wanted to come back. I think he was persuaded to come back by Dermot Desmond to kind of rehabilitate his reputation in the eyes of Celtic fans, to kind of create a neater ending to his story from the last time. Getting bundled out the door. I mean, all right, the resignation, but it's a bit of a kind of the Malcolm Tucker thick of it resignation, isn't it? I've drafted your resignation. You can walk about dignity, but we're going to brief that you've been sacked. It's a bit of that. I mean, so this is not the vision that Rodgers came back to kind of see. He wanted to leave. He wanted to ride off in the sunset as a hero and come back in 10 years with a lounge named after him. Certainly ending like this.
See, the argument.
Understand why would he be engineering why would he be sabotaging himself and his own reputation? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. See, this argument that was made about he was making a point to the board of his team selection as well. Like you say, I mean, there might be elements of truth to that, but he's not going to do it to the detriment.
Yeah,
he's not going to do it to the detriment of the team and losing games. You know, he's not going to be like you say. He's not going to be a case of self-sabotage. You know, why would they want to wreck his legacy? Like you say, he's the most successful Celtic living manager. He's won 11 out of 13 trophies. You know, he came back. He repaired his reputation with the fans. You know, he would have had. You know, he wouldn't have wanted to his Celtic story to end this way. You know, he would have. You know, there was no chance that he would have wanted his legacy to be remembered as the man that gave up the title to Heart of Midlothian. No. So yeah, I just don't buy into any of that whatsoever. And I just really think that he's been this season, no matter what way Celtic want to spin it, he's been handed the short straw. I mean, the tools that he's had to work with. You look at it at time cast with the squad he had to put out. You know, how many players? Yes, on Sunday in that Celtic team would they get into the Hearts team? You know, and I
would say the Dundee team the week before.
Yeah, now
you gave for Dundee.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think Brendan Rodgers, and he, to be fair, he did shoulder responsibility. I don't think he has been getting the most out of the squad that he has at his disposal at the minute. I mean, there's no way a Celtic team should be going to Dens Park and losing to this current Dundee team. So that, I think, lies with the manager. You know, you've got £5 million players on the bench, £6 million players on the bench, £11 million players on the bench. So he was backed. But this summer, there was clearly glaring gaps all over that team. There was so much quality had left without being replaced, and he simply wasn't back. No matter what way that Celtic want to spin it, you know, he simply wasn't back. And the Celtic are saying that he signed off every transfer. I mean, I don't know. Did he sign off Nicholas Kuhn's exit and not believe that Celtic would bring in a replacement for the Champions League qualifier? I don't think so.
Well, this is the thing. This is where it would be the kind of he said, she said. Because I mean, Rodgers will say they always say that he sanctioned every move. And listen, things like the Shin Yamada signing, which is obviously was the one that's held up as a kind of club signing, inverted commas. The club said to him, "Listen, we've got this striker. He did a good season in Japan 18 months ago. He's 23, 24, 25. So he's cheap. You want him?" And he'd be thinking, well, he's not what I need. I need a marquee centre forward. But well, yeah, if you want him, I don't understand the kind of the two processes at work. You've got the team for the now and the development side of things. Yeah, we'll take him, but I still want a striker. Ademida, does he say he can go? Yeah, probably. I mean, once he came in, I think he tried. He's seen a lot of potential. Ademida got frustrated by him. We saw him shouting and balling at him on the sideline many times. Got to a point, right? And I've tried with the guy. It's not getting through to him. They're getting £7 million. I'll let him go, but I need another striker. He's promised another striker. What was it? Dahlberg. Mm-hmm. That deal falls through. He does too far gone, and they don't get in somebody else. So things are broken down behind the scenes that are not Rodgers' fault. This is. I think the genesis of this goes back almost to the new year. I mean, I go back to the defeat at Ibrox. The 3-0 game is such a shocker. You think it's a bad day at the office, but I think even then, I think Rodgers was seeing a few warning signs. By the time you get to kind of the spring, the St Johnstone defeat, remember him kind of in Dundee draw. I think he saw signs that this team had come to the end of its cycle and needed a full refreshment. I think he wanted to have a clear out and build a new team this summer. Yeah, that fell on deaf. That was the warning signs. He did say back in March, yeah, the refresh your players or you refresh the manager. That was the start of the ball rolling down the hill at that point in time. You get to the summer and they do neither. If they wanted to say at that point in time, right, Ben, we're not going to go and spend £45 million outlay net as opposed to a net gain that they do every summer. We're going to part the ways. Different visions. We're going to part the ways. The fine. I think everyone would accepted it, maybe even at that point. Because this team needed major work in the summer, and it didn't get major work. It got the usual kind of 5 new faces that can go into a first team, and there are 5 that are kind of slightly kind of developmental, so to speak. And clearly, there's been a breakdown with the recruitment department. I think the relationship with Paul Tisdale, who, by the way, has managed to kind of escape the blast from this kind of fallout from the summer. This guy's been now recruiting, been pretty much in charge of recruitment for 3 windows that have been, and then back to January. Rodgers wanted a striker. He lost Kyogo. The proviso was get a new striker. They failed. He's had to get on the phone and phone Jeffrey Schlupp, which is a guy that obviously he was aware of and players and knew of from down south, to get that as a backup. They get in Jota, but I know he tried to get the lad Nakamura from Reims for £8.5 million. Failed to get him. The winger failed to get him, and now he's getting quoted in the summer for was it Villarreal wanted €20 million not back. Yeah. These are kind of things that started to take a chip away at the relationship. By the summer, I think Rodgers had lost trust in Paul Tisdale's recruitment. I think he offered a lot of players he didn't fancy. That slowed things down. The relationship was getting eroded by the week. The kind of dithering over certain transfers. You look at David Strelic, you look at the Dahlberg fiasco, you look at the kind of Balak Wisher chasing him for so long. Then he signs too late and then doesn't get a game. I think there's a whole lot of things built up to a point that made the relationship break down. Rodgers, he's playing a dangerous game. Let's be honest. He's playing a dangerous game. You start calling out your employers in public, you're playing a dangerous game. But again, he's a manager with vast experience. He grew up as a manager under the coattails of Jose Mourinho. Not a shy guy that couldn't say what he thinks. And it got to a point where it became so fractured that there was no way back. But seeing when the dust settles, what's going to be Brendan Rodgers' legacy at Celtic now?
I mean, he's got to be remembered.
In 10 years' time, how will Rodgers be viewed? Favourably?
I think definitely. I think he'll be viewed favourably just now by the Celtic fans.
Absolutely. I think absolutely should be.
Just not the Celtic hierarchy. Yeah, I mean, I think his legacy has got to go down as we've touched upon there. He's one of the most successful managers in the club's history. I mean, 2 trebles, 2 doubles. He completely lifted the standards when he first stepped foot into Celtic Park in 2016. Celtic, when obviously Rangers went out of the league, they'd suffered from years of mediocrity in my eyes under Neil Lennon and Ronnie Dyler. They massively underachieved. They looked lost as a club. Especially Ronnie Dyler years, losing that semi-final to Rangers. I think that really summed up that kind of 4-year period. But then when Brendan Rodgers walked in, he just brought a new energy. It was, Celtic really looked as if they meant business. It was a real turning point, I think, in the club's history. You look at the amount of trophies they've won. Brendan Rodgers is now, he's played his role in overtaking Rangers in trophies, which was a massive thing for the bragging rights in this city. 119 trophies, I think he's won, or 120, sorry, that Celtic have won now. And he played an absolutely massive part in that, monumental part in that. He's levelled titles with Rangers as well, 55 each. So these are important they might not mean much kind of outside Scottish football, but in the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, these are things that matter to fans. Yeah. And as I said, the amount of trebles he won, the doubles. By
the way, I know people are recency biased and maybe talk about his latter spell both times, but some of the football and some of the periods was right. I mean, it was as good as you'll see at Celtic, really. I mean, for 2024 as a calendar year, exceptional. For the 116 goals last season in the league, some incredible performances. The first spell, invincible trebles and all that stuff. I mean, beating Rangers heavily several times. I think his place in Celtic history is it should be secure. I mean, once dust settles and time passes, I think he should be always welcome back with open arms at the club. I mean, I think they should be getting a lounge named after him, all that kind of stuff.
It's just a really sad way for the story to end.
But see, this happens before. I mean, Jock Steen's end wasn't particularly nice either. I mean, slightly before my time, Tommy Burns didn't leave under great circumstances, then come back. It's not the way he would have wanted to end, but I don't think it is the story. I think once you get distance, the story will be a different matter altogether. I think he might be seen as a guy who maybe his ambition and desire made him too hot to handle for the club's hierarchy. And they're going to be the ones facing the consequences from that in the next few weeks and months.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, like you say, his demands were intense, and he did raise the levels. And you're talking about the hierarchy and how maybe his ambitions didn't match, or the board's ambitions didn't match his. What does this say for the next Celtic manager that comes in? Is he going to become a yes man? What happens?
The thing is, I done a piece online today that I think back to that statement, Dermot Desmond's trying to kind of ruin the reputation of Brendan Rodgers, but I think it may have backfired and may have damaged his own, because if you're a manager from the outside looking in, thinking there's a manager who's won 11 trophies out of 13, unparalleled success, and gets flamethrowered on the way out the door, that might make one or two think twice. But so I think that was ill advised. Really do. But listen, let's talking about new managers, right? Let's move it on.
Before we move on, let me just throw this one at you. It's something I've been thinking about this morning. Do you think Brendan Rodgers regrets coming back to Celtic?
No, I don't. I think he did. I think it will be seen now as a kind of period of rehabilitation in the eyes of the fans. I think he did come back. His intentions were good. I think, it hasn't ended. It's ended spectacularly badly. Maybe that was always going to be the case. Given what happened the last time. But I think, I say again, I think when dust settles, I think you might look back and say, went back, added to my trophy. Like you say, achieved a lot, and then hit a brick wall. No, I don't think he'll regret it. I don't think he'll be short of offers either. I think he'll move on and he'll get to 1,000 games as a manager at a good level. I think Celtic might end up regretting that they've allowed a manager of that level and experience and now to go twice. Would Rodgers have sat tight and done another 10-year stint at Celtic? I don't know. Certainly not the regime that is now. Maybe not. Maybe his ambition would have took him away again at some point. As a bit of me thinks it's not the end of the Rodgers story at Parkhead. I mean, he's a young guy. He's 52. I mean, look, listen, if you told me Martin O'Neill would be back as manager again after 20 years, I wouldn't have believed you. So, I mean, who's to know? Who knows? I still think there's another chapter in the Rodgers story at Celtic at some point.
I be long gone by then.
I can see Brendan Rodgers being the chairman in 20 years' time and falling out with Dermot Desmond's son, something like that. But listen, talk about Martin O'Neill in charge. I mean, who would have believed? I mean, there's actually. I get messages bouncing about in times, and that was one of the ones that mentioned at some point. You think that just sounds so daft, but now it's actually come to fruition. Martin O'Neill was a big hero, and I fans. I mean, absolutely, probably in terms of he's loved probably more than any manager in the last 40 years, including Brendan Rodgers.
He's right at the top.
But clearly he's in to help Sean Maloney, who'll probably be the man in charge of the managing unit in the short term. Yeah,
you'd think so. I mean, I think you'd probably just be Martin O'Neill, probably be the figurehead. 73-year-old, he's been out of the game for 6 years. It's like you say, 20 years after he left, he's back. I mean, imagine he said this at the start of the season, heading into a Premier Sports Cup semi-final. Martin O'Neill would be the manager, and Danny Rule would be the manager of Rangers.
White coach material. I just don't think. I know Sean Maloney is a good guy. I think he's a good coach, good manager. I just think if they put him in Tim Charles immediately, I think it might have been a bit more unpalatable to the fans. I think Martin O'Neill's a bit of a kind of slightly kind of makes it an easier sell in the short term. Because of Martin O'Neill's stature at the club.
Let's put this into perspective.
But then what
happened? Could have been Dundee manager in the summer.
Sorry?
Sean Maloney could have been Dundee manager in the summer. The job was there if he wanted it.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think Celtic fans would accept that as a straight replacement. Then you're in the situation is if what happens if they get a result against Rangers and go on in the short term, get a few results. Does that become the permanent solution? I can't see it. I don't know about you.
I don't even think it can be. I think this has got to be an interim basis. This can't rumble on beyond the international break that's coming up. Celtic need to get a permanent manager in the door and quickly, because the January transfer window is going to be season defining. You know, Celtic need to get quality in the door. If they don't, then this title could slip away.
It goes back to Paul Tisdale and the recruitment again, because he's the guy who's in charge of recruitment now. He's the guy who apparently is data led, and the club seems to have the trust of Dermot Desmond. Has it been good enough, the recruitment? I don't think anyone would say it has been. The ones who've recruited in the summer certainly don't look up to scratch. So the problems are coming in January. But let's get some names fired out here. Let's runners and riders. Who do you think is in the frame? Who is realistic? Who do you think should be in the frame? What do you think?
Ange Postecoglou is going to be the man in everyone's lips, isn't he? Let's.
Big Ange not sitting on a nice big chunk of gardening leave dosh for the time being. Is that not the
£8 million? The rumour that he's sitting on at the minute, and that was the point I was going to make. Would he be willing to give that up to come back to Celtic? He's had a whirlwind, shall we say, a chaotic summer or last few months. He might just want a break from football. Plus, he strikes me as the type of guy that is ambitious, that's probably got ambitions to tour Europe's top 5 leagues. The work he's done at Celtic, he's achieved everything he's going to achieve. Would they really? What is the motivation to go back?
Well, he might feel he wants a bit of love after his Nottingham Forest kind of short, sharp fling. He might feel he wants a bit of a warm embrace, because he'll get that at Celtic, that's for sure.
He would get that, but I mean, in terms of, you know, going on to achieve more things, you know, he's won the Europa League. I'm sure he'll have probably ambitions to work in Germany and Spain and other leagues. Yeah. I just don't think it's. And plus, this is another thing as well. How many times are Celtic going to go back to old faces? You know, the Celtic fans, they've been protesting and crying out for fresh faces, the boardroom, a restructuring of the club, a remodernisation of the club. I just don't think you can keep going back to old faces like they've done with Brendan Rodgers. Look how that's turned out. Jota, unfortunately, he's been injured for the next 8 months. Kieran Tierney hasn't quite worked out. I think you've got to show more ambition, and creativity, imagination, and go for a new name. There's guys like, I don't know how popular this one would be, but you've got Robbie Keane, who's obviously doing really well with Ferencváros. I see that he's among the kind of the front runners with the bookies. You get Knutson as well from Bodo Glimt. I don't know how many times he's been linked with a job. For some reason, having been to Bodo, he seems to love it there. He must be the only one. He must be the only guy in the world that loves Bodo. Having been there, the Arctic Circle.
it's seen of one of these Scandic noir murder kind of series on Netflix. I mean, I don't know why, but he seems to love it up there. Can he get by hook or by crook? So forget about him. He's in. I know his contract's up, but he's in with the big.
The interesting thing is,
he must love the cold.
The interesting thing is, he is out of contract in December, and he has been at Bodo Glimt for 7 years. So he might be moving on, but whether his next destination is Celtic, I don't know. I think that's up in the air. Marco Rose is another one, obviously experienced Bundesliga manager. He was just
He was a guy on the list for Celtic a few times through the years. I think it might have been before Ange, actually. Yeah. Before he after he left Dortmund.
And he seems to have an affiliation with the club as well. You know, he was famously pictured in his Celtic hat and scarf, and he's waxed lyrical at Parkhead and
Royce and Enzo Maresca were on the list with Eddie Howe. That period in time, that's what it was. I'm pretty sure it was that period of time he was on the list, and then it was obviously they pivoted and went to Ange after kind of Mark Lowell did his work at the Far East. That's I mean Kieran McKenna, Ipswich Town, another one.
Yeah, this is a wild card, right? I'm going to throw it in there. Kevin Muscat. What do you think?
Kevin Muscat,
PVG, a disciple of Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, I mean, with McKenna, would that be a slightly hard sell for Celtic fans, guys from the Championship in England and being obviously around
back-to-back promotions with the Championship and then to the Premier League. He's definitely highly rated down there. It would be a major jump to be honest, going from Ipswich. I think a mid-table in Championship just now to Celtic. Although I think his style of football would be pleasing in the eye, but you know, I mean, back-to-back promotions is some feat, especially I think the Championship's one of the most competitive leagues in the world, if not the. So, you know, I think he finished runner-up in League One and the Championship, so he's not actually won any trophies. But Yeah, I think he probably tick a lot of boxes in what Celtic are looking for.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the World Cup qualifiers. I mean, Scotland now have got a playoff next year, no matter what, haven't they? So does that take Steve Clarke off the table? I mean, you think maybe at some point Clarke steps down from Scotland, would he be a guy coming into the frame for Celtic?
Well, Brendan Rodgers was talking about Celtic's DNA at the weekend, wasn't he? I don't know if Steve Clarke's style of football would quite fit at Celtic.
I think Steve Clarke plays the cards he's been dealt. I think Steve Clarke would like to have a chance to go and become a manager of an attacking team. I just think anytime he tried it with Scotland, he gets his pants pulled down. Anytime he tries to get Scotland adventurous, they got to do him. But that's more the personnel rather than the manager, I think. But I just think the time is not right for Steve Clarke, is it?
No, another one it probably falls in the same category as Craig Bellamy. He's obviously
exactly the same. Bellamy, I think a lot of people would be on board with Bellamy. He's done great things with Wales. Fiery character. How would he get on with the Celtic board? But he's done a great job. Again, no, they're in the hunt, aren't they, for the World Cup? So that's not going to, unless it's a temporary team take charge this season. That can't happen, surely. Yeah.
No, as I say, it can't. The January transfer window is going to be a definitive month for Celtic. They need to. I mean, I said yesterday in Hotline Live, the board need to be working overtime. Well, they definitely will now, but find a new manager. But they need to be working overtime between now and February 3rd, which is when I think the transfer window closes, to get quality in the door. Because if they don't, Celtic simply can't continue with this squad. If Celtic finish up with this squad at the end of the window, then they won't win the league. It's as simple as that. There's no chance, and they might even finish third. That's the reality of it. So they need to get a manager in place quickly to bring in his own signings and to bring stability to the club, which is badly needed. And Dermot Desmond talks about the toxic atmosphere. Just bring a try and lift the mood. Bring a fresh a breath of fresh air into the club as well. Fresh energy.
It does seem like it's going to be a kind of fresh start. Obviously, it looks like John Kennedy is leaving as well, which is, I think, at some point that needs to be addressed. I mean, the guy's been an incredible servant for Celtic, probably the most successful number 2 and coach of all time.
Yeah. I mean, he's described as a world-class coach by Damien Duff a few years ago as well. And I know that every former Celtic player I've spoken to, just can't speak highly enough of him. I think that you're right to raise that, Mick, because that's kind of slipped under the radar. Yeah,
I think that has to be addressed at some point. But I think the club have to kind of make a note of this as well, because it's been an incredible servant for Celtic over the years. I know that some punters, again, familiarity being contempt. There's been in the COVID season, Kennedy caught a bit of flack, and anytime Celtic was a goal from a corner kick for a while, it was always his fault, wasn't it? But actually, I don't think you can doubt his impact at the club as well. And clearly, when he goes with Brendan, you can tell something's broken down. So it's maybe a chance for Celtic to reset. But if you want, Celtic needs, this is the problem Celtic are going to have now. Celtic need a huge character to handle being a Celtic manager and the demands of that job. A huge character.
Plus the fact is they're walking into a title challenge, which Celtic haven't had for the best part of a decade.
Exactly, a huge test. It requires a job. It's a job for a huge character that can cope with all the stuff that goes around the club. But the huge character is sometimes hard to maintain, as we've just seen. So at some point, Celtic's board and Dermot Desmond are going to have to say, well, if you want a big character, you need to take what comes with a big character, which is a big personality, a big ego, big demands. That's what you get with a big character. So they're going to something's going to have to give at some point for this next appointment.
Martin O'Neill's not going to be the next permanent manager of Celtic, but his return makes me think, is he going to have some sort of role to play, or some sort of, is there going to be a restructuring, create a director of football role? Would he be the man that could potentially fill that? To be honest, I'm not convinced that would be the best fit for him, but it just makes me wonder. He is a man with character, he is a man with experience, and it just makes me wonder if there's going to be a role, a longer term role for him once Celtic do find the manager.
Yeah, but listen, Celtic are now stepping into the unknown, because I mean, after the seismic shift on Monday night, it's very much uncharted territory for Celtic now. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I think we'll wrap it up there, Ryan. We'll get some work to do, haven't we? Unpicking all this chaos and mess. We're going to find out if Martin O'Neill hopefully will be doing his first press duties of the week. There's obviously a game against Falkirk on Wednesday night, and then the Scottish Premier Sports Cup semi-final against Rangers on Sunday. It's almost incredible, isn't it? What's unfolded here.
Celtic Park was going to be half empty on Wednesday night. I think it'll be more or less full now with Martin Neal returning to the dugout.
Well, yeah, and maybe a big queue at the door of guys line up trying to get the job as well. Unless they've seen that statement from Dermot Desmond and think maybe not, it'll pass. But listen, it's chaos. But we'll keep an eye across all the platforms here to do the record. Thanks a lot, Ryan, for joining us. Thanks for listening. You can get us all the usual outlets. And we will keep on top of this and see what's happening. It's coming next. Thanks for watching.